Hi, hello everyone. Good morning to some people and good evening to the rest of you. So, welcome to Power of Knowing, day 2. So today we talk about uh, food. I mean, like it's one part of all the things that we do or are able to do is all due to food that we consume in different ways, like solid, liquid. Sometimes you can also consider the elements that you get from nature in through air and all as food, depending on like how they are being utilized in the body. So it's all about food. That's one part of the entire equation, really. Like obviously there are multiple factors involved. The other side being how you spend it. Food means what? Food is the basic energy for our body to run, for us to survive. That's energy which will like, I think eventually when we talk about, when we move on during the day to day, we'll not say the word food anymore probably. We'll be talking about nutrition and energy only. I mean, that's how what it converts to when you really talk about food in the way of life sciences, in the way of uh, so throughout this session today. So I mean, like we have already been sending out those notifications in terms of what are the things that we're going to cover and all. So let me give you a very brief about this. So there are three basic things that we'll cover. One is like what is really like how does really food work in the body? That is one. Number two is about nutrition and the nutrients themselves, like how do they impact our body in various ways possible. And number three is about consuming food, or in other words, three bigger areas would cover up all the subtopics that are there about weight management, about staying healthy, about internal health, about looking good, about uh, getting slimmer, and all these things would all of it would be covered in these three broad topics. Okay, so let's move on very quickly. So let's start off with like things that we already know, right? So how about this? Eat less to lose weight. I mean, it's agreeable to a very good extent, right? Let's go about this very quickly, right? Zero carbohydrates diet will make you lose weight faster. So what do? You stop eating rice, you stop eating breads and chapatis and rotis and all of it, right? Next comes fasting is necessary to lose weight. So whether it's you just don't eat, or you can name it as fasting, or you are prescribed not to eat, or you go for a diet which follows the rules of intermittent fasting. Don't drink milk right after eating fruits. Like I mean, like they fight each other in the tummy. I don't know, but then don't drink milk right after you consume a fruit. So many people say like, no, definitely not after banana, but maybe a little bit after apple, something of those sorts. We have been hearing all these things, right? Skip dinner if you think that you have had too much to eat for lunch, or your lunch has been delayed by by some time because of your commitments, because of your work. Eat a small measured portion every time you feel hungry. Yep. Feels right? Replace sugar with jaggery, honey, maple syrup. Probably sugar in the crystalline form looks a little more evil than the rest of them. Don't eat a heavy meal after 7 p.m. Like I am always, I make sure that I finish my dinner or supper by the time like it's dark, and I don't eat beyond that, like because not because of any other reason, but because I am not supposed to eat after that time. It will give me a better sense of health. It will give me better immunity. It will give me better physiological support. Eat anything when you're lean. So if you're already lean and you believe like nothing will impact you, I can eat heaps and heaps of sweets, I can eat heaps and heaps of any kind of food that I eat anytime. Or if you have been following a weight loss program and at the end of it you have reached, suppose my goal is to 70 kgs at the end of my program, and I've reached that. So now I have the license available to eat anything I want, and nothing is gonna happen to me. Add supplements to your regular diet. So I don't like to eat citrus fruits. I would rather take a tablet for vitamin C. I don't. I am a bodybuilder. I have my specific requirements, but I am a vegetarian. I do not consume meat and eggs. I will need extra protein. So I mean, these are just 10 of them, like, all right, 10 things that we normally talk about, think about, or we hear it so often, or maybe we even follow it to a good extent, right? If not all of them, but maybe one or two of them. I mean, none of these are really scientifically right. Eat less to lose weight. Of course, if you do not eat, you will lose weight. You will fall sick. If you eat less, it's not the answer. The answer is to eat right. You have to eat enough to sustain your body. If you are 6 feet in height, if your weight is 75 kgs, if you are active, say 2 hours every day in rigorous activity, you should know how much you are supposed to you require to sustain your body. Zero carbohydrate diet makes you lose weight faster, and so I stop eating rice and chapatis and breads and all. No, anything but meats and eggs has carbohydrates. You are never on a zero carb diet really, and it's okay to not eat rice and breads if you don't want to. You are still getting all the required nutrition or the nutrients from all other stuff if you're making sure that you eat everything else. I mean, that's not a zero carb diet. And a zero carb diet, again, like you are depriving your body of some essential nutrition, right? Zero carbohydrate would mean like I mean, like just imagine I'm on a diet with only chicken and eggs. I eat nothing else. I'm depriving myself of so many other things, other important nutrients that are required to, sustain my bodily functions. The brain runs on carbohydrates. I mean, the sugars, glucose. Fasting is necessary to lose weight. Well, it's like I had made a statement in one of the groups once, but then let me not copy that. But fasting is like not providing when your body needs, right? Not providing enough amount of uh, food or fuel when your body requires you to, when your body demands it. So what really is fasting, right? It's the concept of fasting is not about weight loss. It is about managing your bodily parameters. You are prescribed to fast at times. You are prescribed, it's kind of, you can consider this as a detoxification process, like wherein you have so many other things in mind and not just weight. If you are like regularly depriving your body by not eating, not consuming enough amount of food, it can lead to like deficiencies eventually. So you need to know when you are fasting. You need to be very sure. You need to know what is right when you're fasting. It's not just like easy, like I just fast and I'm fine, all good. It doesn't work that way. Don't drink milk right after eating food. Well, these are, I would say, I wouldn't even call them as knowledge. I would say these are trends that are set up because, say, for example, me, I am allergic to milk right after eating a banana. So I'll tell this to my wife, I'll tell this to my friends, my siblings, and people around me because I have had this experience and they've seen what I have gone through because of my allergy. It becomes a rule for all of them eventually. Well, there is no such rule. If you do not have anything wrong, like if you can, while consuming milk right after eating a fruit, there is nothing wrong. If you have a problem, you have a problem. I mean, like it's not a rule really. Skip dinner if you have had a large meal or a late lunch. If you're eating a late lunch, make sure it's not so large that you have to skip dinner eventually. There are three major meals in the day: the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Make sure that you are having something at each of their requisite timings and not skipping this at all. Eat a small measured portion every time you get a hunger pang. Now, this is a very controversial point here because so many times we mistake thirst as hunger. We are not used to drinking water every now and then, but we are used to eating something. We find it tastier, that's one. And two, it's more convenient. You don't have the hassle of, picking up a glass, going to get the water and then keeping it back and all of it. pick up something, a fruit, a mithai, or something, whatever you get around you, and just gobble it up. Even if it's a small piece, just one piece of grape, maybe, whatever helps you sustain that hunger pang. But so many times it is not really hunger. What I would recommend, or what I normally recommend, like if you feel hungry untimely and you are sure that you are having your major meals in the right proportions, you should not, one should not be feeling hungry. But if you still do, have a glass of water, because it might be a question of thirst and not hunger. Replace sugar with jaggery, honey, maple syrup. Well, when I say sugar, I mean those the crystalline sugar that we normally use for tea and all other mixing purposes. There is only one difference between sugar and the other three, or any other possible varieties here. It's that the rest of them contain some more nutritional benefits than just plain sugar. Plain sugar is just sugar and glucose, the fructose there, or sucrose there, depending on which source it is being made from. But the rest of them also have equal amount of sugar in them. The only difference is probably they will have some additional minerals, some additional qualities, which is not available in the crystalline sugar. Amount of calories, almost the same. 1 teaspoon of sugar would be about 40-50 kilocalories. So would be a teaspoon of jaggery or honey or maple syrup. So that's how it is. Like if you want to stop sweet, you stop all of them. Don't eat a heavy meal after 7 p.m. Again, like it's just like eating fruits and then drinking milk might be a danger. It's about this. Meal after 7 means like there's nothing wrong with it really. Like you will have to eat as per your daily routine and not because of a rule. Eating is your personal requirement and not a social or universal requirement, right? We talked about the time gaps between meal time, the major meals, right? Breakfast and lunch, minimum of 4 hours and maximum of 6 hours. Lunch and dinner, 6 to 8 hours, and dinner to the next day's breakfast is less than 12 hours. As long as you maintain these time ranges or these time differences, we are all good. Eat anything when you are lean. Well, that's not the case. Eating does not always just make you fat. That's not the point. If you are not measuring what you eat, if you are not managing what you are eating, the problem is not just about getting fat, it's about a lot of other things which are worse than getting fat. Like there's tons of diseases, tons of organ issues, the vital organ issues that come into being just because you are eating, overeating, or eating things, absolutely not moderating what you eat, really. Add supplements to your regular diet. Well, supplements are necessary only when you are deficient. That's why they are called supplements. You cannot replace an actual food item, a natural food item, with something which has been artificially created or artificially been produced. And secondly, like a supplement is a medical thing, if I have to just place it in a category, it's a medical product. It is to be prescribed by a person who knows that you are deficient and you need that in excess. If you are anyways consuming a balanced diet and still on top of you are taking a pill of this, a teaspoon of that, and so on, that means you are only creating excess capacity in your body. So anyway, so we'll quickly move on from here.
Which we were also wanting to talk about late dinners.
So late dinner, see, there are so many times we delay food, just like this point here about late lunch. So I delay breakfast because I could not wake up on time. I delay lunch because I was too busy at work. I delay dinner for so many other things, like some happy things and some not so happy things, right? Well, the moment you change things, alter your timings, right? You delay dinner means, are you going to wake up on time tomorrow morning? You're sleeping on whatever time you're sleeping at. Are you going to wake up on time? If you're waking up on time, all good. Maybe one time you can miss it. But if you're not waking up on time, you're really pushing the entire cycle to a different time zone. So late dinner has its own fallacies, and I would say once okay, as a habit, not okay. All right. So food, let's move on from here. So when I said food is one end of the chain or the equation, the other end being the energy that we spend. So food, the entire thing works in this machinery called metabolism, right? That's what is the energy, utilization machinery that's available in our body, the mechanism that really runs everything through our body, providing adequate nutrition to all the body parts and making sure that we are well hydrated, well nourished. Every body part receives what is needed. I mean, like the tissues are what would I say, designed to absorb only the items that they require for their sustenance, for their functionality. That's how things happen in the body, right? So that entire process, and like how we would be storing the excess, where would the excess go? If I have a deficiency, which organism or which tissues are going to suffer? All of this is maintained by this mechanism of metabolism. So in a very, very short and easy way, you can understand metabolism this way. We have three main components of food that we normally talk about, like the proteins, fats, and the carbohydrates, and they are broken down into their subunits by their, or I would say, if you say the building blocks during the process of digestion. And the work on this happens by different types of enzymes that are released in the body, right from your saliva down to the tummy and the smaller intestines also. So the food gets digested throughout this process, right? And they break down into different components, and all of them, they have two primary work. One is giving you energy in terms of sustaining yourself, running your entire physical, the life system that you carry on your inside your body, as well as energy to do things, action, activity in the externally, right? And the other thing is to they help each other. The nutrition, the various nutrients are interlinked to each other. Say, for example, like, vitamin D helps in the absorption of, are lacking in vitamin D. So probably the calcium will not be absorbed into the bones, by the bone tissues properly, and eventually you get a bone problem. So I mean, so that's how things work. They are interconnected, they're interlinked. But so this is just a system design, right? So what really is our objective here is not this process. Our objective is uh, what's the output of metabolism, right? Output of metabolism, whatever is getting utilized in this process is perfect, all good. But what when we have excess? Today I feel like eating an extra scoop of rice. Today I think it's a cheat day for me. Let me have an ice cream, a brownie, and this and that, and I'll end my day, my dinner with a pizza and so whatnot. So what happens to all of it? Does our body require all of it? No, it does not, right? So there has to be some, is this. So we have excess, we build excess. Then bit by bit, these excesses would be stored in different parts of your body, right? Over a period of time, they will accumulate to something which is not really desirable or not desirable at all. But until then, it keeps getting, pocketed in different parts of the body. Fats have, like, they just flow all around wherever they want. They will just line up under your adipose tissues. So would the carbohydrates and proteins. Eventually, all of these things are stored as fat in the body, right? The carbohydrates don't stay as carbohydrates, nor do proteins stay as proteins. They are all transformed into fat and stored in different parts of the body. Problem is, like, it's okay to overeat, but if you're eating extra, you need to burn extra. If you're having extra fuel, it will just overflow unless you fill up, empty your tank as quickly as you can, so that you waste the minimum amount, and like there is no wastage at all. So, I mean, this way, what happens is you maintain that equilibrium of what you're consuming versus how much you're burning. All right. And that is where all the problems begin. So when you have extra, or when the other way here is the deficiency. Say I eat so much of proteins and I don't care too much about fats and carbohydrates. I'll have excess of proteins in the body and I'll lack in carbohydrates and fats. And think about any food item, for example, let's say an apple, right? It just does not have the carbohydrates or iron and the vitamins. It has so many other minerals around it. It will have this and that, all this thing out on a number of nutrients just because of your food choice. And how more often than not, we choose food by ways of taste and not by ways of its value. So what happens then? So you are either you have excess and you like have the problems of having excess, or you would be deficient and you will have the problems of lacking. All right. So we'll move on from here. These, as in like we have been talking about the macronutrients only. Like I just wanted to put the pictures because like they look nice. But then anyways, so we all know about proteins, right? They are the easier ones to manage. The proteins are very easy to understand when we are talking about a person who follows a non-vegetarian diet. But what about people who do not follow who are vegetarians? There are so many things available, right? So of the list of items, I think the eggs are my bad. I put the eggs here for some other reason, maybe. Anyways, so please ignore the eggs in the list. So say, for example, let's take the pulses or the cereals which contain protein, all right? So these contain protein. Let's say if they contain X amount of protein, they probably also contain 5X amount of carbohydrates. Similarly, broccoli or spinach, same problem, right? They contain some amount of protein, but they contain some plus amount of carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates are not bad for the body, but excess is a problem. How do you maintain that? If you are a vegetarian, you still need to consume adequate amounts of protein. How do you manage it? Here is your answer, right? If you want to have these kind of proteins on the screen that you see, let's just consider the two green vegetables here, the broccoli and the spinach. Go to the list of the complex carbohydrates that we have. Don't look at the simple carbs at all. You can see the pictures and understand like they are what they are and not worth talking about at this point in time, right? The complex carbohydrates, everything else that is not there in this list of simple carbohydrates are like the most of the vegetables, most of the whole grains, the pulses, and all these things that we find are all full of complex carbohydrates. Complex would mean they take time to break down. They are scientifically they are little more intricately bound that would like say for your digestive enzymes cannot break them down into the simplest forms immediately. They'll have to break it down step by step. So the digestion process is not instant. Like for example, eat a teaspoon of sugar, it will start digesting right from your mouth. There's something known as the salivary amylase, which is an enzyme available on your spit, on your saliva. It starts digesting simple carb, the glucose right away, right from your mouth. It doesn't even reach your tummy. So you need to balance out on the complex carbohydrates. You have to figure out which are those vegetables. I mean, like that's not an easy task for everyone. So you need to know how much of the other things that you are consuming. I want to eat a lot of broccoli and spinach. That means I'm already getting enough of carbohydrates. So what do I do with the rest of them? So you need to balance it out somehow. Say, for example, my daily requirement is say 50% carbohydrates and 20% fats and 30% proteins. That is an example. So I am consuming proteins which are all fully vegetables or vegetarian proteins. So what happens to the rest of the things? So I need to balance it out adequately so that like because I'm also getting carbohydrates from these vegetarian proteins and I need to balance it out in the carbohydrate category. So that's how you really balance things. So yes, you had a question? I see a hand raised.
Hand raised. Galaxy M31. Who's joined us? Galaxy M31.
Okay, this is a very like I know it's a very dirty looking slide, but then like I had to make it. I had to add in the concepts that are really important here. So the reason why and these are not the only ones, right? This is just a highlight of the items that are available or the kind of disease deficiencies that they can cause. I'm not going to go through each of these and waste a lot of time. But we have picked up, these are the list of like many others also, we have not considered all of them. Maybe I should have added vitamin B9, which is folate. And but then anyway, so this is the list of items. What I would rather tell you is look at the common vegetarian sources. These are the food items that would really make a difference in terms of knowing how to choose the right items when you need to consume or when you need to buy it for your home. So this is this list. These are the micronutrients which are there. So put together, I would say there is one thing which is important to understand here. The list of micronutrients you would see for people who consume non-vegetarian food, it becomes a slightly easier, because animals contain a lot of minerals and vitamins already, like us humans, right? So their meat or the fish, or I mean, that's also a lot of such nutrition directly when you are a non-vegetarian. But when you are a vegetarian, your option is actually it's plenty, and there are a lot to choose from. But you need to be aware of what will give you which food item will give you what kind of nutrition. Why is this important? Is uh, let's take an example, okay? Let's say spinach. Let's take example of spinach. Spinach has, if you two, three, four items here. Yes. So spinach has a lot of different, a variety of nutrients. So what happens is, say I consume spinach and I get say 1, 2, 3, 4 micronutrients directly from spinach, and eventually I love spinach because I have started to like the taste of spinach and the way it's prepared, whatever options I have for preparing spinach. So that should not make it a habit that I'm also contains similar kind of nutrients. You know, say if broccoli contains one nutrient, it can contain something else also, which may not be common with spinach. So it is very important to keep rotating the sources of nutrition. It gives you a wide variety. Your body is not, it does not adapt to a certain type of food. And at the same time, it makes sure that you are like not missing on important micronutrients while, on. And did somebody ask a question in between? Did I hear that? Or it was just a noise?
Oh,
Anyways, I'll just quickly, I mean, like these were the two facts that I wanted to show you, the micronutrients and the macronutrients in terms of the availability and the issues that they can cause. Uh, Problems are plenty. Most of our issues are caused because of, deficiencies in food or overeating and all. We checked that yesterday. So one major, more important impacts of food, I would say more relevant to the current times. One is immunity, and number two is our organ health. Okay, so how do the food really interact inside our body, work on our immunity, work on the organs? We have a very brief and overview on that as well. So let's, unless there is something anybody wants to stop me for, I would want to proceed. To this later. Immune system. So what we have tried to do here is, so our immune system is made up of a number of elements inside the body, right? And the most important thing are the white blood cells that are available. That's there. They are the defense mechanism of the body, right? And there is something known as the T cells. The T cells are ones that contribute to the lymphocytes, or let's call them the lymph, for the lymph that is there in the body. So these two are the primary defense mechanism that we have inside our body for a number of functions in different ways, some internally and some even externally, right from the moment it enters your nose or mouth. or your eyes, and they start defending the germs or microorganisms right from there on, and they keep fighting till like, unless it's something which is newly developed or newly emerging, and like your body doesn't know how to defend itself from it. So immunity depletes. You can consider that as a battery. It depletes over a period of time, because say you fall sick, you have a upset stomach, or you have some other condition because of which you got fever and an infection. Let's say I have tonsillitis, a throat infection, something of that sort. So the cells fight, they lose some lose the battle, some fight on, but eventually you lose your ammunition of the white blood cells or the lymphocytes and all, and you need to build them up. How do you do that? There are different ways of that. Obviously your body anyways will produce them, but there are things that do not really encourage the growth of things and additionally, but they are they are the supplement to the growth of lymphocytes as well as white blood cells in the body. So these are the kind of items that you can think of. Some of these, I would rather say, understand the nutrient rather than the food item itself, so that we do not mix up things. There are so many different items. I mean, you would see all of them are micronutrients, all of them. In fact, even fat has a lot of food items that contain fat also has benefits to immunity. It also kind of helps you keep your body intact in different ways. So this is what happened. An example of say COVID. What happens when you have anything? I mean, wherever you are infected in the lungs, like, so there is anything that happens, goes wrong inside the body, you can term them as an inflammation. When such an inflammation happens in your air tract with the body, like, the trachea and the branches behind that towards the lungs, so as a result, you are not able to breathe in enough amount of oxygen or air, right? And so as a result, your lungs are not getting filled up completely. You only have partially filled lungs. What happens then? So if you have not enough air available, the oxygen available to the blood, to the body is also less. When the oxygen available to the body is less, oxygen is the main, element in the body that really sustains everything else. It's the energy giver for the body. It carries a lot of the nutrients from here and here to there. It is the real, so I mean, like the source of survival only is oxygen, right? So as a result, what happens? Your body is not getting adequate amount of nutrition. Your brain doesn't get enough nutrition. Your other tissues, important parts of the body do not get adequate nutrition. And as a result, you start failing step by step, gradually, sometimes quicker, sometimes slower, depending on your condition, you start failing. So that's what happens. That is the essence of in steam inhalation or exercises for deep breathing, or sometimes even gargling. All of that help you reduce that inflammation from your throat. You can breathe better so that you can inhale more amount of air, at least the requisite amount of air, and provide your body with adequate amount of oxygen. So that's how things work, and that's how things tie up together inside the body. Oxygen and food and nutrition, nutrients and blood, all of them play this role and make sure that every part of the body is adequately nourished. So that is about, that's all I wanted to cover about immunity. Shall I move on? Yes. So next comes something a little more interesting, is the vital organ health. So you would understand, I mean, like there are tons of organs in the body, but then these are the 5 key vital organ food items again and again. We just try to keep it short, but the important parameter here is look at the deterrents. So they do not mean, say, let's say sugar is, it has been placed across each of these vital organs, but that does not mean you consuming sugar will lead to damaging the brain just like that, or issues in the heart just like that. Things do not happen just like that, right? So excess of these things are the problem. I think amongst all of these, the known parts are salt is bad for the heart, too much of salt is bad for the heart, and too much of oil is bad for the liver, right? That's what we normally hear about so many times. But that's not all, right? Sugar is humans are the only animals which consume these three items. And these three items have no values unless they are compounded or I would say added to with a not number of nutrients which make them a little more valuable, but on the plain vanilla form they are not, they have absolute value add of sugar. Like, why do you need sweet? It's a taste. Everything, all the vegetables and fruits contain glucose, contain fructose, sucrose in so many amounts. Milk contains sugar as well. So, I mean, if you are consuming everything in the right quantity, you should not be consuming sugar at all. It's only because of taste that we love to taste something sweet. That's where things change. That's where the game changes entirely. Similarly with salt, I mean, you can have iodized salt, you can have plain salt and iodized salt, or some salt, that salt, this salt, but then everything else has been like added to with some things which can help your body. But otherwise, salt as a product is not necessary for the body. What do you really get out of salt? There are so many other things like what NaCl, right? Sodium and chloride. You get it from so many other sources. So this is about the, so I mean, like, problems in these ways when we have adequate, or sorry, when we are inadequate or when we have excess, that is when we start to think about ourselves as something has gone wrong. I need to do something about my diet. I need to start jogging from tomorrow. I'll wake up on at 5 in the morning every day from tomorrow onwards. My weighing machine has told me to do so. I mean, that is when, why? That's too late. Knowing these phase of depression or mental anxiety, or you can save other people from that state, getting into that state altogether. And so many of these problems are hereditary. They are passed on from one generation to the other. So many of these are like, fortunately not contagious, but so many of them are so fatal at times. I mean, one small mistake, we know about it and still we do not do it. It's a matter of just a mental power, mental strength, and nothing else, right? So, having said this, I would like to move on to something a little more interesting: weight management. These are facts, unlike the slide in the beginning. These are all facts. There is no gimmick here. So, eating excess of fat does not really make you fat. It can make you sick. It can make you terribly sick. What are fats really like? Fats, I mean, like, it's a subgroup of lipids, right? It's like, fats and oils. So fats you get from so many sources, like meat, from milk, dairy, I would say, from nuts. There is fat in so many types of vegetables, obviously not as bad. Uh, and you have oils. All of them, the problem is what makes you sick is the triglycerides. I mean, these are different components of fat. Let's not get there. So fat can make you sick if you are not having the right choice of fat and if you're having too much of oils. But what really makes you heavy is the carbohydrates, which get deposited, because this is something that we end up eating more, consuming more. Everything has carbohydrates. Like anything that you eat except meat are carbohydrates, right? So you can end up easily. It's like I had this question yesterday, right? So I have a dinner party to attend to, and I'm there. I'm there. I have nothing else to eat anywhere else, so I have to eat here. What do I eat? If I'm aware of what I'm supposed to eat, I will make my choices wisely. I mean, there is no harm in eating a little excess once in a while. You can always burn it out, do some extra exercise tomorrow morning, and you're done, maybe. But then, like, it should not become a habit, right? So if you know how much of what you are supposed to eat, you know which items are sweet. Anything which is sweet is sweet. There is no other option. It is sugar. It cannot be anything else if it is sweet. Um, Things which are there, like which are rich in oil, which are cooked deep fried, which are cooked in a heavy amount of oil, like which are crackling really. All these things are full of oils. And oils, like once you have cooked the using that oil, it is gone. And you do not know how many times that oil has been used, especially in restaurants. Why do we have so many things which are rich in triglycerides? Is because like we reuse a lot of oil with quality of oil maybe. As long as it is consumable, as long as it is, usable, I would say, we use it. And the problem begins there. When we go to a McDonald's, we just do not order a burger. We order a soda along with it. We'll order maybe like on a very hot day, I'll even or order a Maxwell. I don't know if you get it nowadays, but anyways. So I mean, that's how you do it. And somebody like me who's a foodie, I'm not done with one burger. I know. The time when I used to eat, I used to have six of them, and they were cheap as well at that time. Anyways, how they define their eating habits. The right diet leads to weight management. Yes, of course. It's not about eating less, it's about eating right. How much of what to consume. It's not easy to understand. I mean, like, you need to study, you need to know, you need to learn about things to be able to identify, okay, this is the right amount of rice I need to eat. I can, if I'm eating rice, which has got carbohydrates already and it's got proteins also, good proteins, I can add this amount of dal on top of it. Dal has again well, so I already have a bundle of carbohydrate plus carbohydrate. Okay, forget the protein. That's not going to make me heavy anyways. If I'm concerned about weight, what do I eat next? There is fried paneer, or forget fried paneer is still good. There is a nice paneer gravy, butter paneer. Nothing is more delightful, right? I'm not going to non-veg. I mean, like that's a given thing. So, and then I have nice. All of these things require you to prepare all these items. The end result is tons of oils utilized. So where does it go? You cannot sieve out all the oil from all the food items just like that. It goes inside, you know. But that's there. Adequate physical activity is required to maintain weight. You cannot just lose weight just by running, jogging, running, jogging. It will need you to do it in a good deal of time, where after which you will start seeing results in one, uh, unless you are not consuming the right way, the right amount, and the right balance of food, composition of food, it will still give you that amount of calories inside the body. Let's say energy in the body. You're burning it out, but you're still replenishing it equivalently, maybe. Or if sometimes when you start exercising after a very long time, you feel extra hungry, right? Two breads end up with to be four breads in it, right? That's how things work for every one of us. That's a normal way of understanding or interpreting hunger. Because I have burnt extra, I need extra. So that extra stays in terms of food intake, but the burning does not remain consistent. If it is consistent, then probably you will be there, status quo. If you're burning more, you will be starting to lose weight. If you're burning less, you will gain weight. I mean, that's the simplest equation. There are tons of other factors which come into play, but that's how you need to understand. But physical activity will do one thing for your muscles and the flesh part of your body, and you end up getting a little more fitter, and you will be more shapely. You will have a toned body. All of that will be there, but you may or may not lose all the weight just like that. A muscle, let's say we have two equal sized bowls. One has same amount, both have same amount of muscle and fat. The muscle is heavier. So many times you will have more amount, more percentage of lean mass in your body, but then same, or it might even grow up higher. you know a safe plan. So medically, you can, if you lose up to approximately 2 kgs of weight in 1 month, you are supposed to have no side effects at all. But what we have experienced is you can actually lose up to about say 1 kg per week as well, if you are healthy, if your habits are healthy, if you are doing enough amount of physical activity, which is like the weight loss is not just because of eating less, but it is actually because of it's a healthy way of doing things and you are okay, you are good. Maintaining weight, again, like we talked about the vital organs, we talked about it yesterday as well, like so much of overweight conditions can lead to so many troubles. Let's not get there again. So staying at the average BMI. So BMI, like nowadays, not many people really consider it, but that's the easiest way of evaluating your own health status, right? Your height versus your weight. So the equation is what? Weight divided by height squared. Range is you would be underweight if you're below 18.99 and you would be overweight if you're above 24.99. Between these two, in this range is where your ideal weight should be. Height you cannot do much about, right? So staying in this weight has two things. Say I am on a weight loss program. What happens? Say my target weight to reach 24.99 BMI is supposed to be, say, 70 kilos. Right now, I am at, say, 7. I don't want to make that extra effort, pay the extra money for those 2 kilos, and I stay at 72. I have still not reached my upper limit, or I have not breached my upper limit of the BMI yet. I'm still overweight. I just feel good enough and I have done enough. I've already lost, say, 15 kgs. So when you are already at a state of non-equilibrium, you will only get pushed further. So you should not be surprised when your weight starts growing up again with, a little moderate amount of, all right, I have done my bit, I lost 15 kgs, I'll have every weekend, I'll have a party. Every weekend I'll order out food from outside. So things like that. So if I get into that mode, I don't think anyone can save you then. Like if but that is not the case when you enter that BMI, safe BMI zone, the ideal BMI zone. It will take you a lot more effort to become overweight again. Because your body would be in a state of better balance. And as a result, your functioning of the body, your metabolic activities would be all much better compared to an overweight situation, even if it's a matter of 1 kg or 2 kgs. Right? And then, like, I know these are all theories, but more often than not, they work. Right? And so as a result, what happens? You have some buffer. So you might say my BMI is, I usually manage it at about 23.5 to 24 in that range. Even if I gain, say, 2 kgs because of, say, a week of vacation or whatever, so I can be assured that I do some adequate level of exercising and I'll burn it all. See what I mean? But if you are overweight and attempt the same thing, instead of 2 kgs, probably you would be gaining 4 kgs, and you will not be able to lose it out so easily as I would be able to in that case. All right. Belly fat, usually like belly fat, sometimes we see a lot of people who has a bulging tummy, but the rest of the body is okay. So mostly that is because of the excess amount of oils and sweets that we consume. So what happens is, all of these things, the excess that is there, starts getting accumulated around the organs in your midsection of the body. And as a result, that's when, like, over a period of time, your tummy starts getting bulged, it will start bulging out, and the rest of the body still remains more or less okay, because the accumulation has not been too much that it's been all over the body, it's just there. So usually you should understand when you have a bigger belly, bigger hips, thighs, buttocks, all of them, they usually indicate that wrong amount of, or let's say excess amount of sugars and oils in the body, right? And the other thing, losing fat, well, a lot of people believe like it's very easy to lose fat by dieting, but how long would you be on a weight loss diet? Few months, and then what? The best way to do it is to burn it. Burn it down in such a way that, one, it becomes your a lifestyle, And two, it becomes a routine in your, it becomes a phase in your life wherein like you can easily know how to tackle these kind of evils in the body. So that's what is more important. So very, very quickly before we run out of time, planning a diet. Take a look. So planning a diet is not just about I will eat 2 apples today in the morning and a glass of milk if I'm allowed to. I'll eat just one chapati and few types of sabzis and maybe a little chicken in the afternoon. And at night, I'll have only salad, and that's about it. And if I feel hungry, I'll have tea and biscuits or a few nuts here and there, or maybe an orange in the evening. So if I plan my diet that way, sometimes you might hit the target, but mostly you will not, because it's not that easy. It's like it's a mathematical equation after all, right? You need to know the equation, you need to know the formula to form that equation. So these are some of the criteria or the parameters that you need to know, you need to understand, follows in order to make sure that the diet that you are going to plan for yourself or some or another person is right. It is not going to have any side effects, or and at the same time it is also going to give me the desired level of output, the outcome. So some of these things, I'm not going to read through all of it. Like we can always come back. Again, like how much of what? I know this is something it's not easy to understand. If I say I am 1 kg, so I can have 4 grams of carbohydrate. Like how do I find out how much of carbohydrate is there in an apple that's available? You can find those, read those, download those papers. You can get those standards. Now you need to also figure out like there are a few things which also matter here. Is an apple that you find in India may not be have the same amount of nutritional value as you find it in the US or in Australia or some another country in a different latitude on the earth, because the temperature, the climate changes, the weather is different at different times of the year. And so the way things are grown, the chemicals, so many people use chemicals, pesticides. So, I mean, like different varieties can have different nutritional values, and you need to know very clearly which has what. I mean, it's okay to figure out a little, 95, I would say, sorry, about 85% accuracy in diet planning is good enough to give you enough, adequate results. That's what I have experienced. So the way things are to be interpreted, like let's only take the example of carbohydrates. Look at the requirements of carbohydrates, and these are talking about a person with an ideal BMI, no medical condition, and no need for a specialized treatment in terms of nutritional values. So that's when you can consume easily up to, if I am say 70 kgs of weight, so I can consume about say 4 times of that in grams of carbohydrates, which is like 280 kgs of carbohydrates, 80 grams of carbohydrates, and so would be 0.8 grams of protein multiplier and 0.5 for fat. Diet, things are slightly different. Now, again, I just want to repeat, don't follow this blindly, because there are a number of other factors also which come into play, which is better known as your medical conditions. So they play a big role in how the dietary requirements would vary from person to person. But this is just a standard. I mean, on an average, this is how it looks like. And then how do you make your own plan? A combination of all of the things we just discussed right now. You should know the macronutrient requirement. The macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Micronutrients are all the vitamins and all the minerals that are available in food. So you need to know all of that, because we only see the macronutrients. We see meat, we say protein, we see fruits, we say carbohydrates, we see cheese, we say fat. That's how we identify things, but that's not all. The more important things, the actual things that really, the macros are the the gatekeepers all around. The micronutrients are the ones that really work on keeping things right. They are all the engine oils that are required to make sure that your engine runs fine. So balance the micronutrients through the week. So what happens is you cannot be always be having the same type of food if you want to. You need a variety. What happens is unless you have a definite amount of willpower, that's a very the variety in life, right? You would be bored of eating the same thing over and over again. So what do you do? You need to just increase the fats one day, decrease the proteins on the same day, and vice versa on another day. Sometimes if you're a vegetarian, you can change your carbohydrates and proteins in a similar manner. So that's how you keep juggling around so that your source of food keeps changing. So you get nutrition from different sources, which is always a better option. And number two is you do not get bored of having the same thing, the same process over and over again. Fix your meal timing. It is very critical. Your body needs to stabilize. If you keep changing your timings now and then, it is not going to stabilize however good you manage your food items. You need to have a stabilized time of fixed time for eating, and make sure that you have enough gap between the meal timings. Okay. Easily digestible as well as complex. This means depending on the situation that you do throughout your day, activities that you do throughout the day, you might require some easy energy, immediate energy, which is like the simple carbohydrates, things which has glucose in it, and there are the need for that, like the heavy things, the complicated things like say proteins. They take a little longer to break down. They keep your stomach filled up for a longer period of time because it takes longer to digest. So those things are there. So you should have the right mix of those elements as well, so that you get what you need right away, but at the same time you can sustain your by not eating for a longer duration as well. BMR is something which is known as a basal, or let's call it the basic metabolic rate. Okay, so what it is like, because your body performs a lot of functions like for you to stay alive, right? Breathing, your blood circulation, the heartbeat, and so many other involuntary functions inside the body. So as a result, what happens is it utilizes a lot of energy. So if you consume, say, about 1,000, let's say 100, out of that, about 65 to 70 would be burned because of your BMR itself. It's the remaining 25, 30, 35% of energy that you need to burn by doing additional physical activities. And those physical activities include everything that you do throughout the day, plus your workouts, plus everything, things like that. On an average, let's say a person who is about 50 kgs of weight, okay, requires approximately about, say, 1,200 to 1,400 kilocalories. Okay amount of activity throughout the day. You're not an athlete, nor are you a couch potato. So in between, you require approximately that amount of calories. And if you need to lose weight, you probably reduce it a little bit. If you want to gain weight, you increase it a little bit, and also play around with the macronutrients, which help you with the body weight. Water, nothing beats this. Lack of water can cause like problems you cannot imagine. About 70% of your body is water. So right, you cannot do without it. There's no escape. Nowadays the requirements have increased. Like some people measure it by body weight. That is like if I am 100 kgs, I need X amount. If I'm 50 kgs, I need Y amount. It's not like that really. You need enough amount of water depending on the location that you're based in. You need at least, I have seen from whatever research I have done, making diet plans and everything, I have seen a minimum of 3.5 liters of water is definitely required nowadays. I used to prescribe about 3 liters at a minimum earlier, but things have changed. The requirements have changed over the last year or two. 3.5 liters. If you are into sports, if you're into hardcore activities, if you do hard labor, you need at least more than 4 liters of water every day. I mean, that's how important this is. Okay, so that's about it, guys. Before I close it, I just wanted to show you something. This is how a diet plan really looks like. I mean, the ones that I make, all right? So I have masked the items because it was made for somebody. So, but then this is how we work. So if you see the items in this list, you will see the amount of carbohydrates that was planned for this person. So proteins, the amount of fats that are there, total amount of kilocalories that we planned. So I mean, and then you have your fixed timing slots during which you need to consume your food. And then like each food item will have its individual values attached, like so that you can, so this also gives you an education, like you would know what would contain how much of calories and how much of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and so on. So thank you. I know I have cut corners here and there considering time value, but then I'll be happy to answer your questions even now. I have time. I'm not sure about your time. So if you wish to ask anything, please feel free to do that. So for tomorrow, our plan is mostly about some basic exercises, basic activities which are required for our body from a day-to-day perspective. I'm not going to tell you about heavy, rigorous HIIT thing or something like making your abs and all. But what I would like to share with you guys tomorrow is mostly around postures and correcting postures, breathing techniques, and some of other significant moves of the body that help us tackle a number of issues like, say, reflex actions, sometimes twisting of an ankle, for example, unless it's an accident, or things like you twist your knee, you have a bad back, you have a sore back, you have a sore neck. So these kind of things, like which are like kind of a little overlapping with postures as well. These are the kind of things that we want to discuss today. We'll show you, we'll demonstrate you saying these activities as well.